When Simone Beauvoir said the oppressor would not be so strong if he did not have accomplices amongst the oppressed, I think she was talking about the ANU Women's Department. 5 years ago, had you said women deserve their single-sex prisons, refuges, change rooms, toilets and spaces, no one would have batted an eyelid. Now it's enough to get you fired, called a bigot, publicly shamed and humiliated, abused, threatened with death and assaulted. I know how hard this can be for women to stand up and speak their truth. We're threatened with violence. We lose our jobs. We get doxxed. We are secretly photographed and then our photos are published online on websites purposefully made to intimidate us. The mainstream media refuses to report on the threats made to women because nothing stands in the way of men's sexual rights. 5 weeks ago, Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister of Scotland, resigned in shame after attempting to push through legislation that would have allowed men to self-identify their way into women's spaces. She left office with her tail in between her legs after a male rapist was put into a female prison. Andrew Barr, our Chief Minister in Canberra, surreptitiously passed that very same law years ago. There was no consultation with women's organisations or with child safeguarding agencies. In one fell swoop, women in the ACT lost their rights to single-sex change rooms, sports, refuges and prisons. Parents lost their rights to parent or guide their children. This law allows men who claim that they're women to be in our spaces. Do Canberra's parents know that the law allows their child under 12 to change his or her sex marker on their birth certificate so long as one parent consents? No, I don't think they do. Did he consult parents' groups? No. Children cannot make these decisions. Their prefrontal cortex, which controls executive function of their brains, is not fully formed until they're 25. They do not understand what they're consenting to. Studies show that social transition puts children on a fast track to puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, experimental and dangerous surgery. The puberty blocker Lupron is the same drug given to chemically castrate sex offenders. So we are knowingly chemically castrating children. Why isn't the medical profession up in arms? Where is the left media? Where is the ABC? Canberra, which considers itself civic-minded and progressive, now lags like a Neanderthal, dragging its knuckles on the ground while the rest of the world has evolved. Norway has followed Sweden and Finland as well as England by calling out the experimental nature of child transitions. Norway said, "We simply do not have the evidence to support the widespread use of these risky and often irreversible interventions in general clinic settings." A growing number of progressive countries are rejecting the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or WPATH, standards of care that promote medicalisation. Media, where is your frank and fearless investigative reporting on WPATH? Why is this task left to struggling citizen journalists like Genevieve Gluck and Jennifer Barlett? Why is this fight for our kids left to mothers, fathers, grandmothers and penniless women? Puberty blockers leave kids stuck in Tanner stage 2 with micro-sex organs. These kids are left sterile, never able to have children. They are left never able to achieve orgasm. Why is no one standing up for the children? Where is the outcry? These kids are sold a lie that it is possible to change sex. And studies show that it is those children, effeminate boys and tomboy girls, who would grow up to be gay and lesbian, who are being transitioned. There are no wrong bodies. Penny Wong, our minister, why aren't you defending young gender non-conforming girls who would grow up to be lesbians from being desexed and mutilated? Why aren't you, Penny, a lesbian, advocating for the L in the LGB? Why aren't you advocating for lesbian rights to congregate, something which in many states is illegal? Gender clinics need to be put under the microscope. The number of detransitioners is growing and their stories are harrowing. Women left with male pattern baldness, deep voices requiring complete hysterectomies and left with brittle and breaking bones, beards and assortment of health problems. And why is not one mainstream media outlet speaking about UK Tavistock, where more than 70% of referrals had more than 5 associated comorbidities, such as abuse, depression, self-harm, suicide attempts, anxiety, eating disorders, ADHD, bullying, where 35% of the referrals were autistic, when only 2% of the population is autistic, where only 2.5% of the children had no known associated problems, where 42% of referrals had lost a parent through separation or death, and where children referred were 10 times more likely than the national average to have a registered sex offender as a parent. Australia has its own Tavistocks. Where is their record keeping? Where are their statistics? Where is their science? Where is the media on all the bills being pushed through on the pretense of anti-conversion? These bills mean that no counsellor, psychologist, psychiatrist will be able to tease out issues, will be able to talk about suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety. All they will be allowed to do is leave the patient to think that transitioning experimental surgery, dangerous drugs will solve their problems. The world is abandoning the affirmation model which Australia is still using on our children. It is an unscientific and unproven model used for no other health issues. Where is the ABC and the commercial networks on the fuel that drives the gender industry? First to the money. Who is driving this? Jennifer Bielek has done incredible work in this area, but our mainstream media avoids it like the plague. The ideology that underpins this is queer theory, a theory that normalizes the fetishization of womanhood, of childhood, of babyhood. It's men getting a thrill from defecating in diapers, masturbating in women's clothing, animal love, aka, raping of animals, incest and pedophilia. This is queer theory in action. And who invented the term gender identity and gender role, describing the internal experience of sexuality and the social expectations of male and female behaviour, terms prominently featured in trans activism today and used to bolster claims of gender fluidity. It was John Money who referred to himself as a fuckologist. Money believed pedophilia was a homeless sexuality, which led to children suffering no harm. John Money's idea was to raise as a girl one of the Reimer twins whose circumcision had been botched. Money forced the Reimer twins to replicate sexual intercourse with each other, touch and inspect each other's genitals and watch pornography. He would show them porn and then prod them about their sexual arousal. They were 6 years old and both of these poor twins took their own lives. No good man legislates to allow men into spaces where women are vulnerable. No decent man lets grown men watch little girls getting undressed in a swimming pool change room. No man who respects women legislates for his right to expose himself to young girls. No man who likes women makes them the problem in their own spaces, places them at risk of rape in prisons, and sacrifices them as prey for predators. But this is the law we have in the ACT, introduced by Andrew Barr. Clearly, gay men hate us just as much as straight men do. I have voted Greens and Labor all my life, but no more. And the left media is dead silent on what's happening to a generation of kids. Investigative journalism is dead in the water at the ABC. I was forced to share a woman's change room with a man a couple of weeks ago. He wasn't even pretending to be trans, but the law as it stands allows him to use the women's change room. But I have become the bigot in the very space created to keep me safe. Thank you, Andrew Barr, for legalising and protecting indecent exposure. All gender change rooms have now spawned a new genre of porn. Dressing room porn. Search Pornhub and you'll find hundreds of videos of men masturbating in women's dressing rooms, wearing women's clothing they've taken in with them. There are videos secretly taken of women and girls undressing. Where is the media? Where are the left politicians who for years boasted they were the only that stood by women? My sister was pulled over by her aquarobics instructor to warn her about the male flashing his penis and watching young teens get undressed in the change room. She had spoken to management who told her it was discrimination for her to point this out. Men are not women. No amount of surgery or makeup turns them into women. It is insulting for white middle-class men to claim to know our struggles. It is just as insulting as my claiming to suffer discrimination because I'm black when clearly I'm not. These are men born into privilege and entitlement. Please do not compare your embarrassment at not passing to millennia of us women being sex trafficked, aborted, thrown on funeral pyres, bought and sold as chattels, raped, burned alive. These things have been done to women because of our sex, not because of our identity. It is insulting in the extreme. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Autogynephilia! Hear it in the back, boys. Where are the media's investigations into this driver of male transitioning? Media, acquaint yourselves with these. Sissy porn, sissification, hypnoporn and transmaxing. There are literally thousands of young men discussing openly how sissy hypnoporn, nearly done. It is men being forcefully feminized, wearing lingerie, eroticizing submission and humiliation. I've got more, but Kelly's J's telling me to move on.
Well, it's just there's quite a few people
I know.
getting close.
Yes, okay, thank you. I have more, maybe
No,
at the end.